Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to VRSpies Exposed, episode 35. Today, we are joined by Ryan Wienko from Ironbelly Studios, the developers of Yore VR. And as always, my partners in crime, we got Immersive Gamer 83, we've got VR Gaming Evolved, and GameHard 4.0. How are you guys doing today?
Very good, Don. Very good.
All right.
Yep, living the dream.
Yep.
Awesome.
You know,
Yeah, just another beautiful day in the metaverse. Having
yes,
fun.
sir. Yes, sir. So we are so happy to have you on today, Ryan, because, man, let me tell you, your game is looking choice.
Thank you, man. It is so good to be on here. Big fans of everything you guys are doing, and excited to talk about Yore and talk about VR in general.
All right. Well, let's kick that off. Let's get a little bit of the meat and potatoes about Yore. So I think, Greg, you had a couple of questions, didn't you?
Yeah, so you guys are launching into early access tomorrow, I believe. Is that correct?
You are right. About noon tomorrow, I think, is what Valve has scheduled us for.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Exciting times.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. You've been running a little bit of testing on the game the past few weeks now, yeah? You've had a little team of guys helping you out there.
Yeah, we've been getting, I think we had 115 applicants for our alpha tests, but we just haven't had the time or energy to really deal with a huge test group. So it's been a focus group of about 10 or 15 people that have been giving us feedback and running tests 2 or 3 times a week. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And you finding that's working all quite well for you?
Yeah, I mean, we are in your like 6 to 8 hours a day anyway, so we're finding a lot of the big bugs that most people will discover right off the bat. So it's mainly just picking people's brains about how does this mechanic feel? Do you think it's taking too long to gather these amount of resources and that kind of stuff? And that's what we're so excited to receive from the community is just, is it fun? Is it not fun? Does it feel right? Does it feel wrong? And then, of course, if they can find some weird bugs in the process, then all the better.
So for viewers that haven't seen Yore yet, what exactly is the game?
Right, so Yore VR is what I think the first open world game for the Vive. I think Minecraft is out for the Rift, but it's an open world medieval game that involves crafting, that involves exploration, resource gathering, and then eventually will involve questing and hunting and a little bit of PvE before we go into multiplayer.
Nice.
Okay. You mentioned crafting there now. One of the things I noticed with Yore, the crafting system looks very, very interesting. You're actually able to pick up objects in the world, take them, and basically smith your own weapons, yeah?
Yeah, so I mean, with VR and with particularly room scale VR, the the depth that you can go into with the crafting system is so much greater than anything we've seen in gaming before. And it's all about how do we want to infuse as many physical actions into the system as is possible that would mimic real life to a point where it's not getting into the tedium of actually blacksmithing something where a blade might take 8 hours or 15 hours to do. So it's been finding that balance with getting it as complex as we can, but keeping it fun and not so tedious. So in terms of what we can kind of forge or create for the early access, it's going to be limited to swords right now, but that involves gathering the ore, refining the ore into ingots, cleaning the ore before it goes into the ingot process, and then taking it over to a forge. And then what the system does currently is it tracks the quality of the ore from start to finish. So there's a whole process with smelting, and I don't expect too many people to know this. I didn't know anything about blooming and bloomeries before I started this process, but there's a whole process with blooming your iron and then cleaning the slag and then turning it into an ingot. And so from there all the way up to taking that ingot, heating it up, getting it to the appropriate heat, and then making sure that you're getting your strikes in with your hammer while it's hot enough. All of that is tracked so that the quality of the steel gets translated into an overall score at the end, and that's going to determine, at least in the beginning, what kind of blade you're crafting, the overall quality of that blade, which will determine the damage it does, how much health it has. So right now, what we have is at about the 10% mark of the crafting, it'll take your score and it'll say, okay, you're at 8 out of 10. We're going to randomly spawn one of 3 tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 blades, and then go from there. But in the end, the user will have more choice. So at early access, that's where we're at. But as we roll out more, there's going to be more items to craft and more choice that the player will have.
Man, that's so cool.
Yeah, we've done.
I've never heard anything like that.
We've done a lot of research into smithing and smelting. And again, like I said, we want to find that balance between putting those details in, but not just boring the crap out of people with what would take 15 hours in real life to do.
Yeah, definitely.
So I got a question. So what size of world are you guys aiming to create here with the open world?
No, that's a great question. We had somebody on Steam ask that this morning, and I actually took a screenshot from top down and measured the whole thing out by a meter basis. And right now it's 712 meters up and down and 732 meters side to side. And that's what we're going for early access. And the main thing that's limiting us on size is just the way that the engine, which is Unreal 4, handles terrain and terrain optimization. So we've got a lot of work to get it so that the larger the terrain, the lower the frame rate doesn't go. And that's what happens right now. The larger it is, the lower the frame rate. And so right now we're at about 720 by 720. We're hoping by the end of the year to be at about 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers with an additional 1 or 2 kilometers of underground levels at that point.
Nice.
Yeah.
I actually hadn't heard anything about the underground stuff, but that's very interesting. Being a big fan of Skyrim in the past, I always like going down into the dungeons and the dark and scary stuff.
Well, that's a great point to bring up about not hearing about it. So we have a Trello board and our mind map, which is, if you go to the website at the top, you can see roadmap and you can go there, and that'll outline some of the details of the dungeons and the cave systems. But in terms of those, it also excites us more than anything, because once you get into a confined space, performance concerns are completely gone. We're building the first real open world, realistic looking game for VR, and there's a reason why nobody else has done it. It's because it's a huge pain in the butt when it comes to performance. As soon as you got trees and foliage and mountains and rocks and houses all on the screen at once in a realistic lit environment, it's a nightmare. But if you get into a dungeon or a cave where you can only see so far, man, we can do some crazy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
On the subject of optimization and for VR and frame rates and stuff like that, are you bringing in any of Unreal's GameWorks technologies?
Right. So what we're doing is we are working from about a month in. We spent a whole month trying to get Unreal to do what we wanted it to do with little success, and then we switched over to a custom branch of the engine called the NVIDIA VRWorks branch.
Sorry, I'm saying Unreal. Yeah, I was meaning NVIDIA there, yeah.
And so that basically has a lot of their SDK, their VRWorks SDK, implemented already. And we get a lot of people from the AMD side of things saying like, oh, what are you doing for us? And we definitely have AMD stuff planned, but the reason we're going hard NVIDIA off the bat is because all we had to do was switch branches, and then we had the entire SDK set up for us and ready to go. So it was little to no work. And then from there, we've gone in and done a lot of editing in the source and whatnot to get it to perform better. So we are making full use from multi-res rendering to single pass frames, I think it's called, of the VRWorks stuff, and we're seeing massive increases. On top of the fact that the VRWorks engine, for any Pascal users, Pascal GPU users, it immediately jumps your performance up by 30 or 40%. Over the regular stock Unreal, the Unreal branch. So
I really have to ask though, on the behalf of all my Norwegian viewers, will there be fish, and can you eventually catch fish? This is very important, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we weren't planning on it at first, but then, that thing in the back of my head about like, what about the Norwegians? What about the Norwegians? Started really ticking away, and we just dropped everything we were doing and we focused on that. So in the next month or two, we definitely the game overall is going to involve a lot of PvE, but there's going to be an immense amount of work to get PvE working properly, so that it can act as a framework for PvP. And I think that's something that is something that's a bit of an unknown territory, because a lot of games aren't doing multiplayer melee PvP, because at the end of the day, it would just evolve down to two people spamming their controller in each other's faces as much as possible. So what we're going to do is focus a lot more on crafting, a lot more on gathering, a lot more on the survival side of things, which means hunting, which means fishing, which means farming and gardening, alchemy, stuff like this, while working in range combat. So in that kind of strategy, fishing is going to be probably in the next couple of months. We have the fish in, we have the AI for the fish in. Now all we need to do is be able to catch them.
Excellent. I'm pretty sure all the Norwegians are very psyched to hear that thing. And I also have a little follow-up question regarding the survival aspects of the game. So how is this actually? I don't know how to actually ask the question, but I'm thinking about will you be able? I mean, do you have to sort of eat? Will you be able to drink? I mean, to stay alive, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's an interesting balancing act that we're going to be walking, because we've already gotten a lot of kind of suggestions, polite suggestions of ways that we can avoid screwing up the game, as people say on Steam. And one of them is, please don't make such an aggressive requirement of eating and whatnot in the game. And so what we want to do is we really want to look at, particularly in the beginning when it's a single player experience, of maybe eating is going to be more about kind of receiving bonuses, healing faster, and all of that. And then if you've gone a long, long time, then we might start penalizing you in a big way. But for sure, I think we'll be a lot less aggressive than some games, and maybe on par with others. It's certainly something that we've seen if you've been playing Rust for a while. In the beginning, Rust was very aggressive with eating, and then over time, they've really relaxed that, where it's more about, okay, this is how I heal myself faster, but I'm not really worried about starving to death like I was in the early version of the game.
Well, on the subject of survival, I play quite a lot of a game called Subnautica.
Oh, yeah.
And when I first started playing that, I was playing it quite a lot in sort of survival hardcore mode. Through time, I just sort of mellowed out, and I like to go in there now and just not have to worry about eating and go into the creative mode and just mess around, you know. So some players like it, some players don't.
We have a question from UKRifter actually, and he is asking: have you had assistance from a historian in building an accurate medieval environment, or are you just really clever?
So, in terms of the environment, we haven't had any consultants come on board for the environmental side of things. No, but we do have some consultants coming on board in terms of the weapon usage. So particularly the crossbows, how they feel, how they shoot, how the bolts will fly and fall. And then the other one that we're really looking forward to, but we haven't got any positive replies yet. We've emailed a bunch of people in terms of the blacksmithing and the smelting. We really would love to get a professional smith in there to try it out and just say, no, you guys are, it doesn't really feel realistic. But yeah, in terms of the environment, nothing yet, but certainly if anyone's interested in coming on board, we'd love to have you.
Excellent. I can also see the general viewer now is saying about the game that he's watching the trailer, so he says, this looks like why I bought VR. So I think this is something people are excited about, so excellent.
Yeah, it was when we bought our VR, the idea of this was immediately in our heads, and the question was, why on earth has nobody else announced a game like this? That was 3 or 4 months ago, and when we realized after days of Googling that nothing was in the works for this, we kind of just scratched our head, did a double take, and went, well, that's the void that we're going to fill now.
I'm glad you are filling that void.
Actually showing a little video of the Steam page here.
Right.
So people can kind of get an idea of what we're talking about, and the look and the feel of the game is just amazing.
Yeah, and you can also go to playyore.com, and I think that video now plays in the top section of the screen as well. Probably just need to disable that email news list subscriber pop-up at this point.
The actual environments look really beautiful as well. I've been lucky enough to actually jump in on the alpha/beta, and to be honest, you really do feel like you are inside these spaces as well. You know, there's all sorts of options. You can go from low graphical specs all the way up to ultra. And when it's on ultra with like multi hot in a multi-rendering, and like, oh man, it just looks so beautiful, really, really beautiful. So yeah, well done on that, Ryan. Awesome job, mate. Sound.
Yeah, it's been a heck of a time getting that and achieving the frame rate. The biggest thing that we've had is that I think makes the biggest difference is the dynamic lighting. So the whole world is dynamically lit, which means that the tree shadows are moving with the trees. We're setting ourselves up for a day-night cycle and all that stuff, but it's been a really tough challenge to get to that 90 frames per second on a 1070, which is our recommended GPU. It'll run at a 970, just not without all the bells and whistles on. But it's been a heck of a time getting there. But we've just really cracked that nut about 2 weeks ago, and it was a massive relief to know that people on recommended specs can see what we're seeing at a frame rate of, 70 to 90, depending on if you have reprojection on. If you have reprojection on, then I think it'll ping you at 45 until you hit that 90 consistently. But it's been really a really big challenge for us.
We have a little question from Vic, and he says, "I see Yore is only listed as Vive currently. Are there any plans for a Rift release?"
Absolutely, yeah. That's a great question. We in the beginning, part of our strategy was to kind of try to release it on both. Unfortunately, the experience for Yore really depends on a room scale setup. There's a lot of walking around. There's a lot of bending over and picking things up. And I think that's what really adds to the immersiveness, is literally chopping down a tree and then bending over and picking up the wood and putting it in your cart. So a lot of the mechanics are based around that physicality. If we wanted to do a Rift, it's going to require kind of toning that down or waiting until the room scale Rift gets to a kind of a public release, at which point we're really excited to bring this to the Rift. We're pretty good friends with Anton over at Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades. And one of the surprising things that he brought up a couple weeks ago is just to take a lot of the kind of the controller input and all of the mechanics to get it working on a touch was a lot more work for him than he thought it would be in the beginning, which is why he hasn't committed to that yet. And so the other issue that we want to make sure of is before we commit to going to the Rift, that we're not looking at spending a month or two of dev time getting that working when we could be spending that time polishing up or creating new systems. So I think the Rift with room scale and with the touch still is a little bit away from kind of the mainstream, particularly from a developer's perspective. So until they kind of are more at a ready state, then we'll probably be holding off on that.
Well, if you need any help with that, one of our buddies, Mr. Caleb Eubanks, I'm sure he would be more than happy to help you. He's got a nice little four tracker set up with his touches and stuff. So I think he'd be quite happy to jump in and give you a little hand there.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Is that stock, or did you have to hack that together?
No, it just works. It just works.
It just works.
He has access to like a fair bit of technology, and literally he kept just testing it to see what the limits were in his Steam VR, and all of the trackers just kept. He was able to get four working. I think he's had more than 4 working as well, but after 4 he started getting issues. So,
do you guys know what the size of his play space is?
What did he say it was? He said in his last video.
Have a look on his video. Have a look on his videos. You can just see his room, like pretty much every video. Yeah, so you get.
Reality Check VR. That's his channel.
Pull something up here.
His last video, he actually spoke about the size of his room. I can't remember what it was offhand. I'm sure he was saying something like 12 feet by 12 feet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't know if like the cameras, the Rift cameras had like a distance limitation on them because they weren't meant for...
There's his room right there.
Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, that's so cool.
But yeah, I mean, Caleb's been playing quite a lot of Vive stuff with that setup and having no issues at all.
That's strange. Yeah, I'll have to take a look. I don't know if things have changed. I'm just kind of going on what Anton was saying. So yeah, I'll take a look, and if it's an easy switch, then there's, of course, from us it makes perfect sense because now we get to expose Yore to twice as many players essentially. Assuming, I guess, twice as many potential players. I mean, they have to have room scale setups, but that's.
I got to tell you, I got a chance to try the touch yesterday for the first time at the Best Buy demo, and the controllers are sound.
Oh yeah,
they are rock solid, perfect.
Yeah, we just need an option to remap the Vive ones to those ones, and we'd be set.
Mm-hmm. So, other things to do with Yore.
Well, I want to just stay a little bit on this subject because Don, as he just said, he got a shot at the Oculus Touch controllers. And what did you play while you tested the Touch controllers, Don?
Well, I did the Best Buy demo, and you get a choice of 4 different things that you can try. You can do medium, you can do sports challenge, you can do the unspoken, or you can do the climb. And obviously, unspoken is the one that I chose, and it was an absolutely phenomenal experience. And I plan to talk a little bit more about that here later in the show.
Right on. I'm looking forward to that. Excellent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So where I was going there.
Oh, sorry, man.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things which put a massive smile on my face is the fact that you chose to go with lots of locomotion options. So it's not just teleporting, which is a lovely, refreshing change. And I think that's since the Onward came out, a lot of people are a little bit more happier and a bit more comfortable about putting things out. Did Onward have any impact on you going for other locomotion options?
Without a doubt, absolutely. That was one of the biggest inspirations of just seeing how the positive reaction to that. And I think that's part and parcel with just people getting more used to being in a VR space. That we're getting less and less scared of making people throw up all over themselves by introducing non-teleporting locomotion systems. And Onward, just seeing how many people just jumped onto Onward without just burying it in just a pile of complaints about throwing up on their floors was a big relief for us, and kind of like the green light to like go ahead. So in that regard, we're still very cognizant of the fact that there are still new people, and there are people that are going to want to play in different ways, and that's why, like you said, we wanted to offer a lot of options. And you'll find that in VR all the way down to like options for outputting the video so that streamers can see it with the 2 eyes. They can see it with like a 4:3 if they want like a true perspective, or they can see it cropped and a little bit stretched to fill a 16:9. And I think it's all about just giving people options. And so in terms of that, we have 2 different D-pad movement types. So one of them is just your standard D-pad. You point your controller, you push up, and it goes to wherever you're pointing. And it's controller oriented, right? So if you're pointing forward, you go forward. If you're pointing to the right, it'll move to the right. The other one is HMD orientation. So if you're pointing forward and you're looking forward, then that's the direction that you move. And we find that's a lot easier for kind of newer people, because as soon as you're moving in a direction that you're not looking, that's, I think, when it's worst for people. We have our standard teleportation. That's for short distances, just like what you'd have in Vanishing Realms. So 10 meters or below is going to be a teleport. And then when you move that target beyond the 10-meter mark, you'll notice that the icon on your hand will change from a teleporting dude in white to a green walking dude. And then you'll go into more of like an RPG point and click, and it'll just find you a path from where you are to where you want to go, and it'll just walk you around. And that's great for just clicking, forgetting, and then you can either be shooting as you're walking away, you can just be taking in the sights and the sounds. And then on top of that, you can adjust the movement speed in the menu as well. So if you get sick easily, you just put it down to really slow. So just all about options.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Options. I'm so glad to finally see the developers are starting to pick up on that and giving the sort of the old rookie players the options to choose between teleportation, locomotion, or just standard moving around. And I'm psyched about that. So that's well played.
Yeah, thanks.
Does it raise more challenges when you do actually eventually get to PvP? Because you'll have like some people who can only handle 3 speeds, some people can go at 5 speeds, some people are teleporting. Is it a nightmare for PvP, or are you going to have like a set rule, or have you thought about that yet? I don't know. It's a long way away, but have you thought about that at all?
PvP is one of the reasons why we put in and tested so many options, because obviously teleporting in PvP doesn't work. Teleporting even just with hunting deer doesn't work. And so what we need is a foundation in place already that we can put in a rule set, like if you have a weapon in hand, you can no longer teleport, or if you have a weapon in hand and there's a target within distance and you can't teleport, or however we want to do it. And so a lot of our decisions now are being influenced by PvP or PvE down the road. Absolutely. Because the last thing we want to do is get there, roll it out, and then all of a sudden we realize we have to redo half of the game just to accommodate PvP.
Yeah, definitely.
There are a lot of people out there on Steam who love their achievements. So, are you planning on bringing some achievements into the game?
Well, it's actually something that we were talking about this morning, and we're looking at where it ranks on the priority list. So, kind of what I wanted to do today with this podcast is, if everyone who's listening, if you want to vote yes or no, if you think achievements are important. If we get enough yeses, we'll have them in for launch tomorrow. If you guys don't feel they're important, we'll focus on other things. So everyone that's watching, listening, let us know if you think they're important. And let's say if we get more than 5, we'll have achievements in tomorrow.
So you got it, guys. There you go. Throw those votes in the chat. And we'll tally them up. So
what do you guys think?
First yes. Yeah, I like the achievements. I mean, it's kind of just another level of, like I said, filling in dots. It's like, okay, so I've done this. I know. I don't know. I could take it or leave it, but I do like it when games do have an achievement system.
I normally don't have access to it, man. Like, normally I mod my games, so as soon as I mod my games, I don't get any achievements. I've done 400 hours in Skyrim, and I've only got about 2 achievements.
That's a little bit of a rip-off.
Yeah, I'm take it or leave it, really. I don't actively hunt for it, and I probably wouldn't replay a whole game just to get one more achievement. I'd replay it because I like the game.
Right.
That's true. And it seems like the early responses here in the chat are actually saying that it's not something that people are bothered with or need. So
particularly for like an early access, and just with the consideration that it's going to come at the cost of, I don't know, something else, right? At this point, right? With 22 hours until release, I was
going to say, focus more on the game.
Right.
So.
Definitely, and we appreciate you spending some time with us, because this last day before you're releasing is pretty valuable. So, thank you so much for taking the time to come on tonight. Really appreciate that.
No, it's fantastic. It's such a pleasure, and it's just we want to be involved with people that are playing with the community as much as possible. So one of the big kind of values for us is just getting general feedback and questions from you guys and your listeners, so that we can see what you feel is important. And then that's going to shape what we do next week and the week after that. So this is so important for us.
Fantastic. So, I guess we never really covered it, but what was your inspiration for Yore? I mean, what really inspired Ironbelly to say, hey, let's make this?
Right. Well, we're partnering with Tectonic VR. Those are the business. That's the business company behind the scenes in terms of kind of the business end of things. So it was a combination of finding a need that didn't exist. The biggest inspiration was like we said, just seeing at the beginning of the kind of the launch cycle and the first 4 or 5 months of the Vive coming out, that nobody seemed to be approaching this topic of realistic open world medieval. Let's blacksmith like we would expect a blacksmith. Let's chop down a tree like you'd expect to chop down a tree. And we were just a little bit bewildered that nobody was doing this. So the biggest inspiration was that it just seemed the most logical and the coolest thing that you could do in VR, and nobody was doing it. And for good reason. It's a total pain in the ass nightmare to do what we're doing, and to get it to perform properly, to deal with all of like the nuanced problems that arise from all these systems colliding with one another in VR. It's not fun. So that was it. But we realized that too late. We realized that like a month in, and we're like, well, we're in it to win it now. And then the other thing is just how much we love games like Rust, like Reign of Kings, Life is Feudal, Skyrim, things like that. Like we're huge fans of that. And then we're also pretty active in Reddit. Just getting in Reddit and just seeing how many people on a weekly basis were like, when is open world coming? Like, when do I get to forge a sword?
Oh. And you're hitting on it. I mean, we have had internal discussions amongst the Spies, and I mean this is the game that we have all been wanting as well. So I mean, it's just fantastic to see somebody's finally out there listening to the community and listening to what our wants and needs are, and actually making that come to fruition.
Yeah, and it's just really, really nice to know that our wants and needs are aligning with your wants and needs. And it's doing things like this and just being active in Reddit is really great for us, because the last thing we wanted to be doing is deving this in a bubble. But it's really great to know that we're not a bunch of crazy people in a bubble thinking this is going to be cool and nobody else wants it, when in fact we're on the same wavelength as a lot of people.
Right on.
Okay, so do we have
Definitely.
time for one last question? Because there are people wondering what type of things will you be able to craft or make in your
Right. So I think we outline a little bit of this in the roadmap. Again, if you go to playyore.com, at the top there's a roadmap link, and you go to Trello or the mind map. On the Trello board, you can actually vote on what do you think is most important. So we've got things like tanning, fletching. We've got definitely, obviously, forging, blades, tools, and whatnot, crafting arrows and crafting general tools. At the end, coming back to the last question, inspiration comes a lot from your Rust, comes a lot from Reign of Kings, and in those games, you just have to make everything. So that's the end goal for us, is just making everything has to be crafted, everything has a quality. Until that point, obviously, we're going to give you tools and weapons that you can purchase for gold. Mm-hmm. So it's essentially everything. And then in that Trello board, if you feel like fletching is cooler than tanning, by all means, please vote on it, and we're going to do things in the priority order that you guys vote on.
Fantastic. Now, one thing, I'll go ahead, Greg. Sorry.
On the subject of the weapons there, when you're talking about crafting, you've been showing a lot of the bows and the crossbows in the videos that you've released so far. I take it in early access, will we be crafting these, or will this be something that we just have in early access at the start? How are the crossbows and the bows going to work with the crafting system?
Sure. Yeah. So in terms of those are all going to be purchased via gold in the game, and gold is going to be acquired by. You can sell anything. You can sell the wood that you mine or you chop down. You can sell the ore that you mine. You get next to nothing for them, but you can gather 100 and sell it for a gold if you want. Or you can take it, you can refine the ore into an ingot, and I think ingots sell for twice the value of the combined ore in the ingot times the quality of it. So I think you get a maximum of 3 times the value of the combined ore. And then from there, you can then forge blades with it, and blades I think are worth 6 times the amount of the ore with a quality boost. So that's how you're going to be gaining your gold, is through the crafting of ingots and of blades. And then with that gold, you can then use it to unlock the crossbows and the bows until we implement a woodworking system that allows you to build these types of things.
Okay.
And those will be available at vendor stalls, which have to be built. So you have to go and gather the wood and the iron to build the vendor stalls. And then you'll have light weapons, a hand crossbow and a homemade bow, and then heavy crossbows available to purchase.
Excellent.
And the other interesting thing that we're toying around with right now is allowing players to earn gold through their skills at the archery range. So depending on certain high score achievements, giving gold bonuses for that, so that you can, if you don't want to craft, you can just go and get better at apple juggling or target practice and earn gold that way. But that's not in quite yet.
There was like when I was inside there was a cart that I was pulling around with me by my hand. I had to reach out and I was just dragging it along with me, filling it up with wood, moving it on. Will there be any kind of like donkey or like something I can just have carrying it for me, you know, like, and or even like riding? Could I ride a horse eventually? Or I know that we're thinking like long. I'm not saying anytime soon, just end game. Are we thinking?
Well, you can think soon. Horses should be in the next 3 months, I think. And we're going to be putting them in first so they can haul your stuff around the map. Secondly, after that, so you can just get up and ride them, because I don't think does anybody have a VR horse riding game yet?
No.
I'm aware of.
Well, there was actually one back in the DK1 time, but it was not very good. And but it's an interesting concept.
I think the closest we might have is that new Eagle game from Ubisoft, right?
Right, Eagle Flight.
What was the other one? It was a bit like Chivalry.
Oh yes, I know what you're talking about. Oh yeah,
it was. You have a helmet. Valiant.
Valiant. That's right. Yeah, Valiant had it. And I think the VRZoom, one of their softwares, the little VR bike thing, I think you can be on a horse, but.
So I don't think anyone's really done kind of the room scale, picking up 2 reins and controlling it and doing that stuff. So it's certainly one of the things that's big on our list, but mainly to start off so you don't have to haul your stuff around like a peon. But we're going to be doing a couple of interesting things for hauling resources around. The first thing that we're probably going to be implementing is allowing you to pick up more than one thing at once in a hand. We're creating like a magnet in your hand that you can stick it into a piece of wood, hold the trigger down, and it's just going to suck all of the wood from a general area, so you can pick up 10 pieces, dump that into a cart. That's the first thing. The next thing is probably going to be giving you a little wheelbarrow that's going to be smaller and more nimble. And then the thing after that will just be hooking a horse up to your cart and then just saying, like, go home, come back, and it can haul it.
Yeah, I'm really starting to like the sound of it. It really starts to sound like a game you can really immerse yourself in and just, go wood chopping and all that wood in a wheelbarrow. I mean, this is sounding very good, actually, and I'm so glad you're listening to the people out there and what they want and what they need. So I'm excited. When can we expect to be able to test this?
Well, tomorrow at noon. So that's in 22 hours or 20 hours.
Just looking at the page, do you guys have a price for the early access yet?
Yeah, so the price for the game overall is going to be $19. Early access launch discount will be 25%. So that'll bring it down to $14.99. And I have to double check how long that launch discount stays on for. It might be a day or a week. I'm not sure. And we'll probably be looking at running some discounts early on, depending on what the feedback from the community is. The last thing we want to do is for people to feel like they're not getting enough content.
Well, I gotta say, I mean, $19. I mean, $20 for a game of this scope, even early access. That's fantastic, guys. We see a lot of these games coming out that don't offer half the content these days, and they're priced twice as high. So thank you.
Absolutely, I sure wouldn't mind supporting the game for $19 like this, and just I'm all up for that. Absolutely.
It's certainly, I mean, from I think from all of our perspectives, I think we all feel the same way. What we're doing on our research, our market research, we certainly find that there's a lot of gamers that seem to maybe ignore the early access implications of a game or have higher expectations for the early access implications of the game. And the last thing we want to do is kind of get them irritated because it doesn't have what they think. And we're not going to please everybody, but at least if we're showing them that they're going to get a solid discount out of the gates, then they hopefully can come into this knowing that they are helping to fund our long-term goals here, and that's really what they're buying into, not necessarily a 40-hour Skyrim experience right out of the gates.
Right.
Because there's just so much to develop if you want to do what we're doing. And the main thing that we're going to early access now is because we want to know that we're developing what the people want, not what we think the people want. So getting people involved and invested in that process, I think, is the best way to go about that at a fair price.
And that's what early access is all about. Early access is all about that, and there's I think there's a few people that have been burnt before. They think, oh yeah, early access, and then it's just nothing, no other updates, no other things like that. But I can tell already just from speaking to you that you're really passionate about it, and you're gonna get you're gonna get out of early access and release it. So I've got full confidence in you. So definitely.
We've got a question coming in from David Stevens here in the chat. Since it's in early access, do you guys have a regular update schedule planned?
Right. Yeah, so we're talking to Anton again. One of the things that he just wishes he didn't have to do, but he's in the habit now of doing, is weekly updates. So we're probably not going to shoot for weekly updates. We've learned our lesson from the guys over at Rust, Play Rust, not Rust Ltd., where I remember they did a blog post once where they were like 25% of our week is going into making sure we can do weekly updates. And if we did it every 2 weeks, then we would have 25% more time just to develop. So we're probably going to shoot for bi-weekly updates, with perhaps a delay of about a week after the launch, because we've been working, I think, 120-hour weeks for 2 months.
Yeah, have a little downtime after launch, man.
We are dead over here. So what we need to do is we need to regroup, we need to reprioritize, we need to go through and plan out and design a ton of these systems, and then hit it fresh, probably in about a week. There are about 3 or 4 systems that are like at 90% done, but haven't been QA'd properly. So within the first week, we might see updates to the Deer AI, as well as a couple of the other systems, but it'll be a bit slow for 7 to 10 days, and then after that, we'll be aiming for bi-weekly updates regularly from that point onwards.
I don't think anybody will knock you for that, man.
Hopefully not, because man, are we ever tired. Holy. But we'll be doing weekly devlogs regardless of the update schedule, so we'll keep everybody up to date.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Good stuff.
Well, this is great news. So, Ryan, I think we are going to cap it here for the moment on Yore. We got a couple other things we wanted to talk about, but thank you so much for coming on. As always, you're welcome to hang out and just chat with us for the rest of the show. But guys, if you have a Vive, launches into early access tomorrow, go over to Steam, show these guys some love. The game looks fantastic, and we are all so excited to see what comes next for Yore.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's awesome to chat with you guys. Yeah, I'll definitely hang around, give my 2 cents on anything you guys are talking about. I'll just be developing over here, so yeah, I'll be here.
Constantly at work there.
No, that's a dedicated developer right there. He's just multitasking to get out of this. So yeah, we like that.
I mean, I could even turn off my webcam and just turn on a screen share while we're chatting, and then you guys can just see what I'm doing while we're chatting.
Man. I think that'd be awesome.
We want that.
All right. So, what else happened this week? We had some, the last couple of weeks actually, because we're not doing this weekly anymore. But I know we had some pretty interesting stuff coming out of Steam Dev Days a couple of weeks ago when they held that. I think the number one thing that everybody was kind of taken back by was the new Vive controller prototype.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of that?
GameHard wasn't impressed.
No, I shouldn't be telling you this, but my personal take, and keep this in mind, guys, this is just one man's opinion. I've always felt right from the get-go, I'm going to piss so many people off now, but anyway, I've always felt right from the get-go that HTC Vive was a very, very rushed product, and my take on the new controllers only sort of confirms this suspicion, because why would they release new controllers this soon already? And what options is this going to leave you with, the current Vive owner? Yeah, you're left with the options to buy yet another controllers for what, $200? That's going to bring the total price of the entire setup.
I don't think they're planning on releasing these things anytime soon, though, GameHard. This was just a Steam Dev Days. They were just showing early tech.
It's a very early prototype.
But they are surely they are working on new controllers. You can't deny that. Surely they will.
They got to be. I mean, I'm sure Oculus is already working on new.
I'm sure Oculus is working on a brand new HMD as well.
But my take on it is if anything, I would think that these possibly could be the controllers for the Vive 2. So, I mean, I don't know that these definitely are going to be something that they're going to release. There was a lot of good feedback from the developers who did get to try them, though.
Yeah.
I spoke to Gaspar, who's working on Project Ghost, and he got a little bit of a shot with them. And he did say, he didn't talk a lot about it with me, but he did say the actual feeling of being able to swing your arm and let go, like you're throwing something, just let go because this thing's connected to your wrist and it's not going to fly out of your hand, was something that felt really nice in VR.
Absolutely. That one, that point, I can actually agree with that. They did very well, actually. The feeling that you can actually throw and just, release your... I can't explain myself for shit. So.
No, I mean, dude, we kind of getting back, because I said I was going to touch on it a little bit, later in the show, to my getting to try the touch yesterday. That was awesome. The ability to literally be throwing those fireballs, and the way that the touch kind of felt in my hand, it was so cool. Because I didn't feel like I was holding something in my hand. I felt like I was throwing those fireballs. In fact, here, let me get a little video of that. Let's see if I can screen share here.
And keep in mind, though, while he is looking for this little video, keep in mind that Don has actually played with both the HTC Vive controllers. He tried the PlayStation controllers, not with a PlayStation headset, though, but he has touched upon all these motion controllers. So here's the video, by the way.
Yeah, let's see here if I can get to where I'm throwing the fireballs around. But that feeling of just throwing things was amazing, and the fact that your hands felt, there we go, the hands, they felt very natural. I mean, it all felt like it was right there. So I can see that with the new Steam controllers and the way that you are strapping them to your wrists and the way that they're held, it would actually give you that natural throwing feeling versus holding like something that felt like the hilt of a sword.
So what I want to say is, when Oculus started developing these Oculus Touch controllers, I'm pretty sure they said that they want the controllers to be like just an extension of your own hands and arms, and I'm getting the feeling that they have succeeded in this very well because they fit so naturally in your your hands, in your palm hands, so to speak. So I am excited. I can't wait for December together.
Oh, dude! After trying it yesterday, December 6th can't come fast enough. I mean, it was an eye-opening experience. So that was actually a little first look at a video I'm going to be posting up tomorrow. Just some little snippets and my thoughts as I was trying the controllers yesterday at the Best Buy. If you live here in the United States, there are I think 250 Best Buys now that you can go to. You can go to live.oculus.com and you can book your demo session. So if you have yet to try the Touch, I highly recommend them.
And thanks, guys, for not freaking raging out on me on the chat, though, by the way. I can see a lot of people were actually agreeing with me. So I'm relieved now. Oh, I can breathe again.
So I think the other big thing that they were talking about, and I mean, and this is good for VR in general, not just the Vive, is that they said their, news out of Steam Dev Days said that over 1,000 new users are coming to Steam VR every day.
Which is a fantastic thing for VR.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anything that drives that user base up is good for all systems. So that's fantastic. Now, something that was definitely a big, shot in the arm for VR was, kind of transitioning into something else that happened over the last couple of weeks. We had PSVR launch.
We did.
Yeah. And I mean, geez, I think I read a report that they sold 50,000 units in the first week in Japan alone.
Yeah, that's a crazy figure. When you look at something like, say, how many Vives have sold compared to how many they did in a week in Japan, it's a crazy figure.
I read today, I think that the estimate for Vive sales from launch to today is only about 140,000. So, and that 50,000 was in Japan. We don't still know the total number of PSVRs that are out in the wild at this point.
So the Japanese are definitely staying very loyal towards Sony and just jumping on the VR wave, and I'm excited. It's great news, actually.
A lot of it's down to price point, though, game, mate. It's just a lot more accessible. If you already own a PS4, it's just so much more accessible.
It's a lower barrier of entry. Now, the one thing that I think we've talked to other people who had them. I don't think any of us have the PSVR currently, but the only thing that most of the reviews that I've been reading and most of the people that I know who have talked to about them is they're saying the tracking. I keep hearing the tracking.
Yeah, absolutely correct.
The head tracking's fine. Head tracking's fine. I think it's like the relying on last generation hand controllers. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But then they probably had millions of those units left over from before.
Well,
7 years old.
We've seen definite occlusion problems with the Brookhaven experiment on PSVR to the point that they've actually had to do a button press so that you can kill enemies coming from behind you, because when you turn around, you've got so much occlusion problems on the Move controllers that it didn't work. It actually broke the game, and they had to implement a button press to flip you 180 to kill what's coming from behind you.
Now, my thought on that, though, is we're all seasoned VR vets here. We've all been around since we've been through. I've been through since the 90s, but most of us DK1, DK2, CV1, Vive. Do you really think, though, that the general populace, with no basis of comparison, are going to find that to be problematic?
No, I was quite happy with the DK2 for years, sitting in my seat, playing games sat in my seat. To be honest, I was quite keen to get a PlayStation VR, but just the way circumstances worked out, I wasn't able to do it. And games like Battlezone, Rigs, to me, they look
Rigs looks neat.
fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
the seated experiences. I know Battlezone, I think Rigs possibly as well, is coming to PC VR, and I can't wait to get my hands on them. And they're seated experiences. I've no problem with seated VR experiences at all.
No, neither do I. I mean, actually, some of the best VR I've done has been seated experience, things like Elite Dangerous, Project Cars, I mean, the simulator type stuff. But I will
Alien
say,
Isolation as well, one of my favorite moments in VR.
yeah, I don't know. I played that one standing.
Cooking, good looking.
Love it. Yeah, with the whole scary clown thing going on over here. I don't know if you guys have that over in Europe, but
Yes, killer clowns.
Killer clowns are everywhere.
Yeah, this is pissing game hard off though, because I mean, not every clown is bad. So this is giving the clowns bad rap.
Exactly.
Cut that shit out. God dang it.
We kind of bring it back. What I was impressed with is the quality of some of the launch titles. For the PSVR, what I'm not impressed with is that a lot of them to me seem like glorified, extremely polished tech demos that are using existing IP and existing licensing. So things like the Batman thing, and you've got the Final Fantasy thing and the Resident Evil thing. I mean, Tomb Raider. At most though, these are like 10-20 minute experiences.
Tech demos, man.
They are tech demos. I'm so glad you touched upon this.
Demos,
yeah, absolutely. And people are already coming out. Oh, the Batman VR game. The game is so good. It's not a freaking game, guys. It's just a highly polished tech demo. So,
if I can finish it in one sitting, it's not a game.
Yeah.
And that's just my personal opinion.
But what I really think is cool with the PSVR now, I'm just going to say it. I'm not a big fan, but what I really find fascinating is the fact that once people now try PSVR, that this might be their first go in virtual reality, and instantly I'm hearing people are going like, "Hey, this is quite intriguing. Actually, is there potentially better alternatives out there?" And then they start to look at. Yeah, it is. They start to look at the Vive. They start to look at the Rift. So I'm psyched about that.
The other thing is
just
that
excited
it's
for the
bringing
ports.
more devs into VR as well.
Yeah,
bringing
absolutely.
far more developers into looking at VR, and some of those developers will be exclusive for Sony, yes, but some of them will cross over to PC as well and do both, which is fantastic.
Absolutely, and if you think about, I can't remember the exact number, but if you think about how many PlayStation consoles that are out there in the world, of course the game developers are going to start to think, I might actually jump on this VR stuff now and potentially sell millions of copies. So yeah, it's brilliant.
I mean, anything that gets more people into VR, that's my thing.
Definitely.
I mean, Gear VR. I mean, you got to think there's over 1 million Gear VRs apparently out there at this point.
Yeah. And also, as we have tried to say so many times, I'm sorry, I'm just jumping in though, but I'm Norwegian. That's my excuse. Anyway, what I want to say is, it really doesn't matter. This is not a competition between the headsets by itself. I mean, it all comes down to you. And what actually feels natural to you, what comes down to your own liking, what you prefer. And I mean, it's not a competition. I mean, they're all great headsets. There's no doubt about it. But once you find a headset you enjoy and you like, so this is the reason I'm sticking with Oculus, because I simply found the headset that I like to use. It has everything that I want. It has inbuilt audio. I'm just very content with the overall build and the build quality. So this is why I'm staying loyal to Oculus, because I just really enjoy it.
It really does. It comes down to personal preference and what is the best headset for you.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you're getting into VR, then you're helping to foster that ecosystem. Like Greg said, people are getting into VR and starting to become VR developers for the first time. I mean, really kind of stretching out and I just think, like I said, it's all about VR for me. I don't care if it's Vive, I don't care if it's Rift, I don't care if it's Gear VR, PSVR, I don't care if it's something VR that we don't even know about yet. It's all good for bringing VR to the masses.
On the subject of bringing people into VR, now, I came across something, I think it was yesterday, that I found quite strange and a little bit disturbing. And this was Game in the UK. Now, basically getting people into VR and showing them how good VR can be. You need to put this device on their face, whether it be a PSVR, whether it be a Vive, a Rift, or any HMD that's not out yet and coming in the future. They need to see it on their face to understand what it is. Now, Game in the UK, I don't know if it's in all their stores, one specific store, how many, I'm not sure, but they have been charging people.
It's shameful. That's absolutely
to try
shameful.
demo stations. They are actually charging £5 for, I think it's 10 minutes, or £15 for 20 minutes, something along those lines. And I don't know. I don't really agree with this. I think it just seems to be Gamer trying to. They've had some financial issues in the past few years, and whether they're trying to claw some money here or whatever, I don't know. But I think it's quite shameful, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I carry this with me every day where I go, and I put it on as many heads as I can, and not once have I ever asked anybody, for money to do that. And for a retailer, okay, who already has been for years providing game demos. I mean, Game is GameStop over here. I'm assuming it's the same company. In Europe you have it as Game. Over here we have it as GameStop. For years and years, you can walk in there and try the latest console. They've got demo stations set up, and they have never, ever asked to be, charging for that, because VR is so new. It might take an employee to help strap it on you and things like that. If that's how they're trying to justify it, that's just crap.
Yeah, I mean, even if they tried to justify it that way, when you walk into the store, they do have people on the checkout serving people, but they also have, and they've always had, people walking the store floor, chatting to customers, helping customers, helping people with the demo stations that might not quite know what they're doing. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a legitimate reason to be charging money either. And for someone who's interested in spending, if you're walking in and you're looking at dropping 350 quid on PSVR, that's quite a bit of money to a family with kids. And, to charge them just to have a look, it's like walking into any electrical retailer. Like you walk into Currys or Comet in the UK, and they've got rows and rows of televisions, but they're all switched off. But if you want to see the picture quality, to see if you want to buy that television, you got to pay them.
Yeah, no. If they want to do something like this, let them set up a kiosk in the mall that's its own self-contained experience and charge for it, but not in the store.
No.
Or the only point where this would actually be okay is as one guy is saying in the chat now, if it was for charity.
I'll give them that.
I'll give you that.
Yeah, then it would be okay. But for their own benefit, this is just greed. This is just pure utter greed from those guys' aspects, though.
Yeah, Gaspar is weighing in, the Project Ghost dev that we frequently talk to, and he's saying he did a convention with 50,000 people in it, and there was a guy charging for VR Vive demos, and basically that they went over to the booth and told him, the VR should be free. It should be for everyone.
Is there any way we could sort of bring up your VR's window now? Because I just want to take a quick little look at the game.
Absolutely.
He's in there now.
He's deving away in there, man.
We could get that on the screen for the
I'll leave that over there while we talk about maybe some new game releases this week for the Rift and the Vive. I know GameHard was all about loading human this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to talk about Loading Human for a minute?
Well, yeah. So if you haven't seen Loading Human already, it's a story about an astronaut called Prometheus, and the main object in the game is to basically save your or at least try to save your dying father, who is, by the way, 173-year-old, and he's a very clever old man, and he has invested all his money into this big technological facility where you meet certain characters, and you have this wonderful little AI system that are constantly talking to you. Her name is Lucy, by the way, and one thing leads to another. You meet a girl called Alice. And what was so fascinating about this game is the way they try to make you feel for the characters in game, and certainly they do a great job. I remember one part in the game where I was actually taking Alice out to dinner, so I had to prep the table. So I went over with some food. I placed the food on the table. I brought wine, which I picked up from a wine cooler machine, so to speak, and I carried all this stuff over to the table. I picked up my little lighter because I was playing this with the touch controllers. So I picked up my lighters. I placed the candles on the table. I lit the damn cable, the damn candles.
Wait,
So,
I gotta stop you. You were playing this with touch controllers?
Yeah. I was playing this with the Razer Hydras,
Razer Hydras. Okay, I was gonna say, when did you get touch controllers?
Oh yeah. No, calm down, Don. Calm down, Don.
And who can I talk to get some early? That would. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interject.
That's okay though, because I forget to I neglected to tell you that. But I was just using the Ghetto Vive, which actually was invented by Instagram 83. I mean, what the hell was his name again? Immersive Gamer. Jesus Christ. Yeah, that was IG though, and he came up with the term. Yeah, the Ghetto Vive, So I was just using the Razer Hydras, but it was such a brilliant game though, guys. So check it out. Keep in mind though, I will say this: the locomotion was really not up to par, but once you get used to it, I had such a great time in that game. And it's going to be a trilogy, so it's episodic based. So it comes 3 episodes, and I can't wait for episode 2. Okay, I've talked enough now.
Yeah, right on.
Look at this though.
So, and I think kind of counterpoint to that, Greg, you were talking about one that you tried this week. Nevermind.
Nevermind, yeah. I'm yet to do a video of Nevermind, but I haven't actually put a lot of time into Nevermind because so far I haven't had time to record, and really I wanted to sit down and do a recording of this before I talk about it properly. I found quite a few issues with Nevermind, to be perfectly honest. One of them, I'll go into one of them. One of them is the snap turning mechanic. So you, instead of turning smoothly with the right thumbstick on your Xbox One pad, you snap in sections. You snap turn. Yeah. But basically the top of the screen, if this makes any sense, comes to meet the bottom of the screen in the middle as you snap, like a blink. So the screen goes black and it's from top to bottom, and it's like you're blinking every time you turn one of these sections. Now after a few minutes, and this only took a few minutes, my eyes became very dry. Very, very dry, and it was quite uncomfortable, to be honest.
You're forgetting to blink, Greg, yeah?
Yeah.
Like fake blinking.
It's fake blinking every time that I try to turn, and it was really causing me issues to the point that I stopped playing it. So I will be doing a video on it. Hopefully within the next few days they might update it or something and change that. I don't know, but at the moment it wasn't optimal for me to be playing it any longer than about 5 minutes.
By the way though, Reckoner VR, I'm very happy to be your pussy, man. I'm very happy to be that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is. Oh, is this going live somewhere?
Yes, yeah, we're live. It's okay,
But I can say pussy though. I mean, pussy can mean kitty cat, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Just don't say it too many times.
Yeah. Right. So another game that released this week, and I think some of us got a chance to play it, and the kind of jury's still out on, is Eagle Flight from Ubisoft. So I know. I was gonna say, I know I played it, and overall I didn't hate it, but I did not like the vignette thing where when you speed up, everything kind of the black comes around the edges. It just, I don't know. It just kept taking me out of it.
Yeah, the tunnel vision thing, I wasn't overly keen about that as well. But I did hear a lot of reports that once you actually get accustomed to it, people started to forget about it and started enjoying the game quite a lot, actually. So
That is a comfort feature. That is a comfort feature.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
I did catch a post over on Reddit where Ubi is looking at the option to possibly give us a way to turn it off.
It would be nice.
So.
Absolutely.
Have any of you guys actually been able to try out the multiplayer in it yet? Because I know
I can't get a match.
My personal opinion, single player, I found it a little bit dull for my liking, but that's just my personal taste in games. I wasn't overly enthusiastic. That's not to say no one else is going to like it, but I couldn't get into the multiplayer, so I haven't been able to get an opinion on that at all.
Right, me neither. Every time I try it, there's just nobody in there.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Game Hard, have you been in at all yet?
No success as of now. So I'm very disappointed.
Collab.
What?
Why don't you guys collab?
Yeah.
No, this is true. We could probably do that.
We could probably rig it up that way.
Yeah. Yep. So, and then the one game that I wanted to try desperately this week, because I am a huge fan of Rick and Morty, but unfortunately I do not have a Vive and I could not get my PS Move Ghetto Vive working, is accounting. So
right, you haven't seen that yet. Yeah. I was very fortunate enough to actually do test that out with the Race Rider, and these guys are just pure geniuses, though. I mean, it's just hilarious. I mean, it's short. There's not a whole lot to do, but I mean, you just get transported to a totally new universe, and the sound acting, the script in this little demo is just wonderful. Though it's just, there's videos out already, so be sure to check them out. Both Caleb did one, and I did one as well.
I watched them, and man, I got to tell you, I'm a huge fan of Justin Roiland and Rick and Morty, and I mean everything that guy's doing right now for VR is just incredible. And in fact, actually, just a little plug for them. If you want to meet Justin Roiland or quite a few other celebrities, you can do that this week in Altspace. I know Drew Carey, Janine Garofalo, Justin Roiland. Just a ton of people are starting to do weekly appearances in Altspace. So
this is very true. I did remember I replied back to UKRifter immediately when I saw that post on Reddit. The fact that Justin Roiland is going to be appearing in Altspace VR, and he was like, "Oh no, I already know, man." So I was a little bit too late.
He's a huge fan as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I don't know. I've got to figure out a way to play accounting because it is just great. And
I just wish I knew what this Rick and Morty thing is, though. I remember.
Oh my God! Go watch Rick and Morty. Go watch it now.
Look at this, though, guys. I got this. I got this one in a loot crate. Actually, it's a little puzzle. Can you see what it is?
Yeah, that's Rick and Morty. That's awesome.
It's Rick and Morty, everybody. Yeah. How cool is that?
Definitely one of my favorite shows right now. So, but and one that I know we've all played. I just want to kind of put out a little plug for it as well, because the developer is a good friend of ours. Is tomorrow Push for Immer or Emmer.
Yes.
I don't know how you say that. Is launching into early access as well. And I want to give a shout out to Gary Hamer, the developer. We know him as Lupus Solus. He has also gone out of his way to make this an open world game with lots of movement options. Definitely if you guys are interested in those types of games, it's for the Rift, it's for the Vive. I mean, go tomorrow to Steam and check out Push for Emmer.
Yeah, also works on a flat screen as well, and he's gone above and beyond to make sure there's modes for it. All sort of modes. So if you want to teleport, you can teleport. If you want to do normal locomotion, analog style, that's fine. Mouse and keyboard. If you wanted to sit there with a headset on with a mouse and keyboard, you can do that too.
And I think we are pretty much committed. We are going to have Gary on in 2 weeks when we do the next VRSpies Exposed to talk a little bit about the game and the struggles of devs going through launch on early access with Steam. So definitely be sure to tune in for that.
Mm-hmm.
But guys, I think unless anybody else has any questions, we've gone a little over today, but definitely wanted to get that all out.
No, I'm all good, man. Just wanted to say a massive thank you to Ryan for taking time to come out, out of his busy schedule to come on and see us all. So thank you so much.
Fantastic.
Definitely. It's got to be a hard time just now for you, Ryan.
Yeah, it's go time. That's for sure. We're got our coffee and our espressos all lined up for tonight, so we don't have to sleep between now and tomorrow at noon to get as much in as possible.
No sleep. You get that game out.
Absolutely. Well, as you can see, we're just making just so many tiny little tweaks that you can make that it takes forever. So I'm super excited. Thanks again, guys, for having me on.
Oh man, thanks for coming on. We are all really looking forward to Yore. So,
well, anytime you guys want me back, just let me know. I really enjoyed being part of this, and if I didn't have,
we'll do a little post launch with you. See how it all went.
Awesome sauce.
All right. Well, guys, unless there are any other questions from the gallery here, I think we are going to call this one. But thanks, as usual, for checking out what we're doing here on VRSpies Exposed, and we will see you guys in a couple of weeks.
Awesome. Take care, guys.
Until that time, take care, y'all. See y'all in the metaverse. Bye.